Okay. Actually, it's just before 2, so we will wait for just a minute. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for coming. Today, I'm very pleased to be hosting 2 longtime Bizcom secure file transfer customers, Aaron Smetana and Steve Carnes. Aaron has been in IT for almost 30 years, managing all types of organizations from retail to food and beverage, higher education, and financial services. Currently, Aaron runs the IT for Headlands Asset Management. So thank you for being here, Aaron.
Thank you.
We also have Steve Carnes, who's responsible for messaging services for 18,000 employees at Indian Health Services. And before that was at the Chickasaw Nation Incorporated company. But you've been kind of involved with IHS for what, over almost 30 years too, Steve?
Yeah, over 20 years, 22
20
years.
years, okay. Yep. And I personally am really interested in understanding how the federal government approaches IT and security, especially as it's evolved over the last several years. So to kind of kick us off, what I thought would be to just get a little more background from you, do your background a little justice more than I could and your experiences. So, so Steve, maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at IHS.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. Glad to be with you today. So Steve Carnes, I'm with the Indian Health Service. I work in the Division of IT Operations. As Bill kind of said, I lead the messaging services team for Indian Health Service. We're an agency under Department of Health and Human Services. I've been with them in various capacities, up to the acting IT Operations Director. Currently leading the messages services team to incorporate email, Skype, Bizcom SFT, obviously, and mobile device management for about 18,000 users.
Wow. And what were you? What did you guys do for your messaging before you implemented Bizcom?
So, we didn't have a great solution. We were really encrypting the payload and then sending it over email. So we were using tools like WinZip, and we had a semantic tool that would encrypt the file, and then we would just send that over email as the transport. Mm-hmm. But it was disjointed and not very user-friendly at all.
And how did you train people on that? I mean, was it like especially like WinZip or semantic?
Again, very convoluted. We had a number of tech notes, and we took regular calls at our service desk to assist people with that process. So it's clumsy, which is obviously one of the drivers for implementing a solution such as SFT. That really got the ball rolling and was definitely part of our kind of requirements gathering when we looked to the future of how we could accommodate and achieve a better outcome there.
Mm-hmm. And in your organization, you 18,000 employees, it's a pretty big implementation. So how is that, with such a large user population, how do you roll something like Bizcom out to that many people?
So, the tool itself was very simple to deploy, but it was, we had as part of the project, we had a marketing campaign. So, as we looked to deploy the tool, we went through a marketing campaign. We had a training regiment where we would offer some training to users. We put together some training material that was posted up and made accessible to our end users. And fortunately, the tool's very intuitive and simple to use. So, the training requirements were really minimal.
Mm-hmm. And Aaron, in your organization, I want you to also go back and tell us about your background too. So maybe start with that, but also like after that, maybe discuss kind of your user population, because it's your private sector significantly different than what Steve deals with.
Right. Well, thanks, Bill. Aaron Smetana, and I'm the CIO at Headlands Asset Management. We're a small, our business is we buy and sell distressed mortgages. Much smaller organization than Steve, and we probably have roughly 50 employees between our California and New York offices. And privately held, and because we are small, we kind of fly under the radar of a lot of governances that a larger organization might. But at the same time, we still try to do best practices, always trying to have the infrastructure scalable in such that if we did need to move up and do a lot of hiring and increase our business, that we wouldn't be completely unprepared for anything that might come up as far as those governances. So and I've come from having worked in higher education, and we had a medical school, so I definitely had to deal with PCI and HIPAA, and private sector again before that, and a variety of industries. So, but at Headlands,
let me ask you about that, Aaron. So
Sure.
you do have a very kind of varied background. So you've kind of seen it all, especially from an IT perspective. So, like, and financial services is a some more regulated maybe than retail or others. But so what's the difference? Like, how does IT approached in those different?
Well, the beauty of being in a combination private sector and a small organization is that I don't require any committees to make decisions. I'm trusted with the purse strings as well as my own capabilities as far as making the decisions. I do still usually try to run new systems past a couple of potential power users and get their take on it. But yeah, especially after working in higher ed, yeah, so much easier. But on the other hand, I may not have the budgets that might be available in a larger organization.
Right. Now, and Steve, maybe so Aaron made a really good point here. I mean, you must have, when you kind of want to bring in a new solution, you must have to jump through a lot of hoops. There must be a lot of stakeholders and committees involved. So what was the process like when you went to, and maybe you could talk about some of the ROI analysis that you did when you looked at Bizcom and some of the other competitors out there?
So, we more and more getting more scrutiny, and there's just more governance around the process. But even 10 years ago when we looked at and deployed SFT, the federal government is very rigorous on IT lifecycle, and so any new system, particularly, we're required to go through business need statement, business case. We do requirements gathering to support the business case. We go through the justification process. And when we looked at a tool like Bizcom, SFT, and really any tool in the space, but particularly Bizcom, we found that it was quite easy to justify potentially putting this into our environment because the risk of kind of exposure of data to from a HIPAA perspective, or the cost of such an incident is very high, and so to the tune of millions of dollars, and there's plenty of support out there to kind of articulate what the costs are involved in that. But and so we went through the analysis. We made our business case. It was approved, and then we turned that around into the money gets approved then, and then it gets turned around into a project for deployment. And so that, I mean, in a nutshell, that's what we did. We did evaluate and do market research against a number of competitors, Xelion, Axway, a lot of the big players in the space, and we made our decision. Obviously, we went with this particular tool.
Good choice, Steve. Aaron,
Absolutely.
now, your process was probably a little different.
It was, at the time, which was, I think, pretty common for the industry, is that almost everyone was using FTP servers to move over, several gigabytes of loan documents at a time, as well as faxing too. But FTP servers were the name of the game, and I had a lot of reservations about that, even when I first started at Headlands, even if it was industry standard. But wanting to move away from that, I was shopping around for different options, and I couldn't find very many. And given our size, I thought I'd throw Bizcom into the mix. So I just bought a few licenses and started having a few power users try it out. And after I got it configured, the ease of use and the fact that my training basically involved telling somebody to, take a photo that they've got sitting on their desktop and send it to as a secure delivery to their personal email, open another browser, log into their personal email with that, and receive it, just to see what the process was. And the fact that that was the end of the training, that was huge. No longer did I have to hold everybody's hand when they're each doing FTP servers, because every server was configured a little bit differently.
So your ROI was really based on the ability for you to free up your time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Your time is super valuable.
That and to sleep much better at night.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Aaron, what were some of you mentioned that your users found it pretty easy. Can you tell me more about some of their experience with SFT and what they're using it for, what they maybe like about it?
Sure. I've got a couple of different segments of users. Most immediately it was the accounting team, and they needed to send out perspectives and financial reporting to some of our investors. And the accountants were able to pick that up instantly. Now, this is a group of accountants, and I think, I mean, no disrespect to accountants, but accountants do tend to find something and stick with it forever. Upgrading from Office 2012 to 2016 to 2019, even though the differences are minor, that's a very major, hard thing for people to get their heads around. But with SFT, it was one of the easiest things that I have ever deployed with my users. Very intuitive. And as time went on, we started using it for more things. We started using external senders. And then one of my power users in our New York office, where in the New York office, that's where they do most of the loan purchases and selling. One of my power users discovered the workspace, and that was a complete game changer for them, as they were able to collaborate with people outside of the organization very easily. Oh,
yeah, I think that's one thing that a lot of our customers or people don't realize that we do is the collaboration piece. Maybe can you tell us more about how they collaborate?
Sure. So an example, let's say if we're looking at a prospective batch of loans that we might buy from a larger bank, our power user in New York will set up a collaborative workspace, invite the external user to it. That external user gets an email, says you've been invited, click here to set up your account and verify. And once they have, then within SFT, within a web browser, they've got a workspace where they can upload documents. And the nice part is that we don't have to worry about the security side of it. We've got control over that. We get notifications. We've got an audit log. So we know exactly what's going on with those documents. But that external sender can upload things, retrieve things. It just gives us a very nice audit trail and easy to use, intuitive space.
Okay, yeah. Steve, did your team use the workspace at all?
We do not. We had competing technologies that kind of overlap there, and so we chose to not enable that. But we did pilot it, and it is a good feature within the tool. We just had tools already that kind of fulfilled that need for us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Now, Steve, kind of same question to you. What are your how do your end users look at the tool? How do they adopt it? What do they like about Bizcom?
I mean, the feedback that I get constantly is just the ease of use. It's really a purpose kind of built tool. It does what it does. It's very simple to use and intuitive. We use it in many different ways in our organization. We use it in the line of business for, literally like healthcare consulting with our clinicians and our doctors in exchange of paperwork. We use it, in day-to-day administrative activities, exchanging security related documentation and paperwork. There's a whole host of use cases for IHS that, this tool squarely falls right in the middle of. So it's been a great, addition for us, just to, make our business practices more efficient. But, I mean, they just the ease of use, the reliability, they like the clean interface. I mean, there's just a number of things and it really revolves around the ease of use and the user experience that I hear constantly.
Now both of you have been customers for 10 years, and the application has evolved, right,
Sure.
over that time. Is there anything that some of the features that you really like seeing that came out or that helped in that user experience? Anything that you can think of?
I mean, I look at this in two ways. So, I'm an IT guy, right? And so there's a number of IT and features that, we love from a compliance perspective. And that's things around, SAML integration and, with ADFS support, multi-factor authentication, FIPS 140-2 compliance, for encryption. These check a lot of boxes for us as a government customer that we're required to implement and adhere to. On the customer side, you know, again, it centers around ease of use. I mean, that's the constant thing, and the flexibility of the tool, because it is kind of a framework for data exchange. It can be used in many ways to help in line of business activities. So, and that's that in a nutshell. That's kind of where we see the most benefit.
Aaron, your perspective on that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, Bill?
Yeah, so just over the 10 years, the product's evolved. I mean, anything that when you initially deployed it versus now that you've seen is like, oh, it's some great additions, or your users really appreciate certain features?
Honestly, I'm not a big user of the product, so I make sure that things are updated. But as far as my actual role in the company, I don't have a lot of use for it, so I don't see it in the same perspective as the power users. And as I mentioned, I think the biggest thing in the last year or two was discovering workspaces and being able to take advantage of it.
Okay.
So yeah.
Now, just along some of the features that maybe aren't as well known, do you guys use any of the automation or REST APIs to integrate or extend anything?
No, not at this point. We have looked at it though.
So yeah, we don't. We have used them in the past for some workflows, and they work very well. But we don't have a big use for it. But just going back to the discussion we just had about features that are very popular. One of the best features that I hear from our end users too is the audit capabilities, and obviously there's central auditing, and you can basically see anything that's done within the product, but the end user itself or themselves have the ability to basically audit all their own activities, and when that's huge, when you're dealing with managers, and they like to be able to go back and look at when they did what, and that's all exportable, and that's a really big feature for us as well, that our end users really like. So
now, Steve, we talked earlier and you mentioned there's one of the probably very little known features that you really like about the branding.
Yep.
Do you want to talk about that a little? Because I think you're one of the few customers actually really leverages that.
Yeah, so our customer base, to lend legitimacy to the tool in our environment, and to really give it the same look and feel as our other tools. We really do like the capabilities around SFT. So, I mean, essentially, you have full control of the user interface, and really every word that is exposed in the web interface to customize it. So, our end users have terms that they're familiar with, and that we've really kind of baked into our business processes. And so having the capability to tweak that branding and that wording so it's familiar to our end users has really made it easier for them to adopt and understand. And it even helps us clarify right inside the tool functionality and capability, so that it eliminates the need for additional training or avoids confusion to our end users. So that's a huge value add to me.
Okay, good. I'm curious about how you guys look at metrics from not just us, but anyone maybe, but specifically around Bizcom. Do you guys have any metrics that you use to better understand how engaged your users are with Bizcom, or how much it's used? Is there anything that you guys look at from a data perspective?
So yeah, I mean, absolutely. So we always are monitoring, tracking usage. From day one, we've seen a steady growth. So we started out, I believe when we first started, we purchased 1,500 client licenses, and we were only using a subset of that initially. We weren't in any rush to really get this widely adopted. It was just another tool in our toolbox, really. But since then, I mean, we've gone to, I think we're up to about 8,500 senders. There's about 40,000 recipients in our environment at any one time. So we load balance the solution for high availability in our environment. But so we have some insight into concurrent usage, and we're seeing about 100 concurrent sessions at any one time during the business day. And so, and then Bizcom itself has, pretty good auditing capabilities around, number of files and deliveries and packages that are in there. So, yeah, we keep track of those metrics, and because we didn't really have a tool in our environment prior to this, we don't really have anything to compare it to, but we've seen obviously a steady uptick in its usage and therefore value to the organization.
Aaron, do you look at any of the reports or the metrics?
I don't have to, but I do make it a matter of habit once a month to go through most of our bigger systems, and SFT is included in that, and review utilization, and just kind of more out of an intellectual curiosity about how it's being used. I do also have some automated triggers that when people do send data outside the organization via email, that will let me know that somebody sent credit card or social security, any kind of PI sort of data that goes across, and then that's a training opportunity for me to go work with the user to remind them that we have proper vehicles for this.
Yes, right.
Yeah, and most of our employees do come from larger organizations. We've got a few Bear Stearns refugees in our New York office. And the larger organizations, yeah, I mean, things were much tighter and they had to do things a certain way. So the nice part is that it's not foreign to them when I remind them that you really shouldn't be doing this. So yeah, I do go through, but yeah, it's honestly the biggest thing is when I get the notifications from the mail server that tell me that something's been sent out that shouldn't have been.
Okay, so we're gonna enter our lightning round. Just some real quick questions for you guys. So both of you just, when you just answer one at a time, but quick answers. So one, do you guys have an internal nickname for the product?
For us, it's the deliver server.
The what?
Deliver server, because it's deliver.headlands.us.
Okay.
But I do have a CNAME alias for delivery.headlands.us.
Okay.
So we brand it as the Secure Data Transfer System, the SDTS system.
That's very government.
Yep. Very black and white, very vanilla.
Okay, in 3 words or less, the best thing about SFT?
Secure, easy collaboration.
Yeah, I would say simplicity, value, security.
Okay, if someone pulled SFT out of your organization today, what would happen?
We'd probably have to go down the OneDrive or SharePoint path.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be chaotic for our users. They've really become reliant on this tool. And just the ease of use of it, I think it would really just be disruptive to our organization, to be perfectly frank.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'd make my developer write something, which he would hate to have to do.
You might have it after a couple of years too.
Yeah.
Okay, what are some of the biggest risks your organizations face today?
Well, as I say, we aren't subject to the larger governances that a bigger company would be, but data breach and general security are pretty much on my mind every day with everything that I deal with.
For us, I mean, it's definitely privacy and security. As a government customer, we're under attack, under a threat of nation state actors. And I mean, we need tools that are, very streamlined, very secure, provide multiple layers of security, good auditing capabilities. And so, those are definitely front and center for us these days.
Now, you guys both have our on-prem SFT, and we also have cloud. What are you for or against cloud?
Oh, go ahead.
No,
Steve.
go ahead, Aaron. You got it.
All right.
I don't want to I don't want to steal all your thunder there.
Well, there was a TV show in England and called The IT Crowd, and I don't know if any of you guys have watched that, but there was an excellent episode where there was a sign that said the cloud is just somebody else's computer. So I always think of that,
Yeah.
But the cloud has its place, but it's not a one size fit all, in my opinion. And there are just some things that are easier and more efficient and oftentimes far more cost effective to run on premise. If you have the infrastructure, I would say it's definitely a consideration.
Yeah, I mean, so for us, as a government customer and entity, we're driven very much by regulation and government priorities. And so, today, cloud first initiatives are very popular with the government. We're really required to look at them as our first option and see if they're a good fit. And we really found a lot of value, honestly, in looking at that. We were hesitant, in adopting them early on, but we've really found them beneficial in a number of areas. They've really helped us flatten out our costs and make it easier for budgeting. We can leverage the additional security capabilities of the SaaS providers, in deploying and monitoring their own technologies. And it helps us free up, kind of scarce IT operations support resources that we can use more efficiently in other ways. So, I mean, I wouldn't say that's the truth in every case, but where there's a good cloud-based solution out there to fulfill a need, we really have been leaning toward adopting them.
And that's, you guys have been around for a while. 10 years ago, that I don't think you guys might say the same thing, right?
No, definitely not. I mean, it's, as we all know, it's a rapidly evolved technology. I'd say it's really taken foothold in the last 5 years. Obviously, shared services, i.e. cloud services, that idea has been around a long time. But in its current, iteration, I would say, they've gained widespread, adoption. So.
What would you wish all of your vendors would do better?
Ease of support and getting and quality of support.
Do you have any good stories, Aaron, about support stories?
Well, honestly, with Bizcom, and I don't mean to sound like a shill here, but the support from Bizcom since day one has been tremendous. It's always been easy to get in touch with people, and then when I do, I mean, it's always fixed. I mean, right there, even the most complex things, we've been able to fix on a single call. I love the fact that Bizcom's support is internal. It's not farmed out. I mean, I'm talking to somebody over there in Massachusetts. It's great. And I've got some consistency. So the nice part too is there's familiarity with my setup when I call support.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'll echo some of the same sentiments. Support, is is always something that we strive to get the best possible support we can out of our partners, our business partners. But yeah, I'm not going to name any names, but we all know some of the big players in in IT, and it's very easy to get lost in a support queue, and your problem just becomes another ticket in the queue. And my experience with Bizcom has been very positive. I've gotten to I feel like I've actually formed some business relationships with some of the support engineers because they've been there for a long time and they really know the product. And when we have a pretty good IT staff here, and so when we're going to Bizcom support, usually it's a more advanced problem, and we get excellent service. Really every time we call. So they know the product. They know how to quickly get to the root of the issue, and they have full accessibility from development to end user support to really kind of get the product or get the problem resolved. Sorry.
Great. I'm glad to hear it. Okay, last question, the lightning round. Who would play you in a movie about you?
Steve, you go first on that one.
Oh God.
I have an idea for you, Steve.
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
That's what I was gonna say. You bear a striking resemblance. So
I've heard that before, for sure.
how about you?
Maybe Ed Norton.
Yes, good one. Good
Funny,
one.
I went to school with Ed Norton. Well, Ed Norton was his father or his mother was a teacher at my school.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Why do you say that? Yep.
Okay, I think you're both spot on. So when the movie comes out, about you guys, I'll be sure to watch.
Awesome.
All right. So I'm going to switch it over to Q&A. We actually have quite a few questions that have come in. Let me start. And a lot of them actually came in while you were talking. So we actually go back to a few of them. So there's a question about MFA. How do you guys both use the multi-factor authentication or just you, Steve?
Mm-hmm.
I do not. So
Okay.
I'm getting ready to roll it out, but I'll let Steve answer.
Yeah. So we use the SAML integration, which is ADF integration, and through that integration we use multi-factor authentication. So it's PIV card or CAC card support.
Okay.
So you need you need to insert your card into your machine and then put your PIN number in. So that's kind of the two forms of authentication. We are looking to build upon that level of security for our recipients, so our external users of the system, by enabling the native multi-factor authentication baked into SFT. But we're kind of baby stepping it so we don't shell shock all of our users at once. But it's definitely a priority. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the big thing about MFA, and I think it's great, but at the same time, you always have to think about whether your user population is going to be able to use it effectively, because that's definitely going to drive up help desk tickets, right? When you turn it on.
Yeah, but as a government entity, we don't really have a choice. We have to adopt it by regulation, and so again, when I look at SFT and the features that we see coming out in the product, they're very much in line with industry needs and industry standards in the areas of security and usability, and that's been one of the reasons that the tools had such longevity in our environment because it continually is being updated to meet our needs. Really with minimal input. I mean, we do obviously provide input back to development and I think we have a really good business relationship with Bizcom, but you guys definitely stay on top of, industry needs. So it's appreciated.
Yeah, I think some of our best features come from customer requests. So yeah, we do like to, we not only listen, but we appreciate these because they, a lot of the features we implement from customers actually are pretty popular across the board.
Yeah. And just a little bit more on the MFA. We like the fact that it's natively built into the tool to support, one-time passwords to email and or like an authenticator app, whether that's Microsoft Authenticator, Google, whatever app you want to use. But having that, there's multiple means by which to get that password to the end users, natively is awesome, because that can be an additional added expense.
Mm. Yeah, we now support SMS, email, and one-time passwords, and pretty much any of the authenticators that support QR codes. So, yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, I think it's a good implementation of it.
I would agree.
Okay, so we have another attendee who asked about SharePoint, and I think they're having some problems sharing out with people, especially people external to the company.
Absolutely.
So what would you guys say about SharePoint? What's your guys' take on SharePoint?
I want to like it, and I have wanted to for over 10 years, but for me, and I know some people have implemented it and works terrific for them, but for me, it's trying to be too many things. Compared to SharePoint, this hands down, this is super easy. And the fact that you've got auditing on access that's easy to get to, that's huge.
I think you're spot on there with the, it's trying to be too many things to too many people, right? I have a hard time using it. I think I fell in the same camp. I want to like it. It sounds like a great tool, but then when you're actually using it, it's just clunky.
Mm-hmm.
You got Steve. Now SharePoint's in government, right? I mean, you guys use that internally.
We do use it. Well, we found it definitely has its place, but for external collaboration, you need external, basically connector licenses that are very expensive, and really to deploy that in a way that is secure. Requires quite a level of effort and quite a few resources to support it. So, we have other tools that the government really uses widely to fulfill that need. But, in lieu of those other tools, I would find the workspaces capability in SFT to be pretty full featured for collaboration with very minimal need for support, which did we not have these other tools, we would be using it today for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Bill, it looks like part of that SharePoint question also talks about retention and access time limits, and that's definitely something that exists within SFT, and it's very easy to configure, for package expiration, and they go off into the ether after that set time.
Yeah. So do you implement it, Aaron? Do you have a set time?
Okay. Yeah, I can't remember if we're 60 or 90 days offhand, but yeah, we definitely use that.
And so, I mean, this is the complaint I think on FTP servers is kind of the bane of your existence back in the day, and the biggest complaint we heard was it just fills up and no one's there to clean it out. So this kind of automatically just purges anything over a certain time limit.
Yep. Yeah, I learned to write those scripts for FTP servers to do that. But it's otherwise, it definitely gets pretty messy. Yeah.
And then you probably get people who call you and say, "Hey, where's my file?"
Right, because that becomes their file server.
Right.
Yeah, and really to that point, Aaron, that's exactly why we expire, the packages and the deliveries. We do 30 days because we made, a strategic decision during deployment time that this was not going to be a data repository tool. It was a it was a transfer tool. And so, written into the governance of this tool is that, you know, you need to retain a copy of the source server or the source file because, after 30 days, it's gone. And we're not restoring that data. The onus is on the sender to, retain that copy of the source data in the event it needs to be resent or, the data expires and, somebody needs access to it.
I don't know if we touched on it but for my users, one of the biggest features, I think we may have touched on it, but one of the biggest features is for my users to get the notifications that their intended recipient has set up their account, has downloaded the package. Just getting those receipts is huge in my organization.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, the read receipt is big because in email, you can turn it on, but it's an optional thing. So the recipient doesn't have to, give you a return receipt. But in Bizcom, it's automatic.
Right.
And really build on top of not only the delivery and the package expiration, but in SFT you also have the ability to expire inactive users. And so that capability is huge for us too, because it ensures that we have a life cycle around our licenses and the use of those licenses, so that we're not paying for licenses for accounts that aren't actually being used. And that's a really big value add that you don't get with a SFT or many other products really.
Okay. There's some questions around integration with applications. Do you guys have SFT integrated into any applications today, or have any plans to integrate it?
I know that you can, but we do not.
Again, we made a strategic decision really not to. We've used some of the and I forget what the tools are called off the top of my mind, but the tools that allow for automatic send and receive capabilities.
Auto post and auto fetch. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We've implemented those in kind of some development and test scenarios, and the reality is we just haven't really found a big need for them.
Yeah.
But I think there are very much use cases that out there that could capitalize on those tools tremendously. And I'm sure, Bill, you see them probably regularly.
Yeah. So I'll mention just a few that some of our customers are integrating with. Well, first is because we have this REST API, it's people can integrate with almost any application out there. It's really flexible, language neutral. And in fact, we have some people who have built their own applications entirely, just using the SFT framework. And it's not even it's not the SFT application. They built a custom one. But the other ones that are I hear a lot about is not so much specific applications, but like they build portals around it. So they have their own kind of internal or external portal, and then SFT just is like they add a button or a little section that allows them to send and receive secure messages and deliveries. So, okay. I think that's actually it for the question. There are a few others that are probably will answer questions kind of that aren't really necessarily relevant to either of you that we can answer, like do we offer an evaluation? Which of course we do. Actually, curious, did you guys run an evaluation first, or did you just kind of look at a demo and say, okay, this looks good?
It's been a while, but I think I just looked at some sample, some screenshots or something, and said, let's buy 5 licenses and just see how it goes. And then very quickly after started buying more licenses.
Yeah. Okay.
So for us, I mean, even before we adopted it 10 years ago, I had a a sister agency of ours that was using it in a limited capacity, and they really liked it. And so, we use some of their knowledge to look at this, but we did evaluate it along with other industry partners to do our own market research and really kick the tires on the solutions to see how they legitimately stacked up to our needs. And yeah, we certainly did. And from a lot of these tools, we found were they may have had a lot of features that we didn't need, or they just weren't as mature as Bizcom. They just didn't quite stack up as well to what we needed in our environment, and many of them were just flat out very expensive. And so when you brought all the market research to bear and really did the analysis, you guys came out on top for us. And I would stress that won't necessarily be the case for every customer, maybe, but you should do your own research. But for us, it was a great fit. It was the right tool for the right job.
Awesome. All right. I think we'll just wrap it up. Any final words from either of you, Aaron?
I'm trying to put myself back in the perspective of a prospective customer, and I think one of the really attractive, besides the fact that it's super easy to use, to administer, to teach people how to use, I love the fact that it is what it is. It's not trying to be a SharePoint or a Dropbox where it, yes, it's capable of doing 712 things. Does it do them all well? Well, yes, no, SFT is what it is. I mean, you want to get a file across or a message delivered securely, you want receipts, and you've got the workspaces in there too. That's what it is. I mean, it's got a task at hand and it works really well.
Steve, any last words?
I mean, again, the only thing I would really add to the discussion here is that, tools come and go, very often in our environment. We're routinely phasing out tools and implementing new tools to fulfill needs. And what I would say is, Bizcom SFT has been in our environment for 10 years, and it's kept pace with our needs. And so, that's one of the biggest compliments I can give you is that, the fact that after 10 years, that tool is in our environment still is a testament to, the good work and the good tool that you guys are delivering. So.
Oh, thank you, Stephen. Here's to another 10 years at least, right?
Here's to it.
Well, all right. I want to thank both of you for your time. You're very generous in coming here and speaking to us and helping some of our both customers and prospective customers kind of learn about Bizcom and its secure file transfer tool. So appreciate it all. Please have a good afternoon. And if there are any other questions from the group, I may forward them on to you if they're specific to you guys. But thank you very much.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you. Glad to be a Bizcom customer.
All right. Bye, everyone. This will be on a recording that you can view. So we'll be sending that out as well for your pleasure. Thank you. Thanks, Mary.